Jerusalem, capital of the mystic land of Israel, a land of past glory, a city modernised by necessity, yet a kaleidoscope of peoples, faiths, of religious hope and fervour. But long before all this religious zeal we see today, God made some very specific predictions. Near this land nearly 4,000 years ago, God revealed to Abraham amazing promises of prosperity and blessing that would be fulfilled in his descendants, the children of Israel. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. In 1948, the State of Israel was established, but it was by no means a peaceful process. Even today, Arabs, Jews, Palestinians at best live with skirmishes on the streets, and at worst have waged all-out war. Jewish history has been written in blood. They've been hounded across nations and driven from Europe in the horror that was World War II. So where does this leave God's promise to Abraham? Is it void, or was it in fact directed to another people? But there's another side to the story of Israel. 1,000 years before Christ, Israel was comprised of 12 tribes. But torn apart by civil war, they divided into two completely separate kingdoms. The southern group are known in the Bible as the House of Judah, and the northern section is the House of Israel. The Jews in Palestine today are mainly descended from the two-tribed House of Judah. But the major part of the nation, the 10-tribed House of Israel, is no longer in the Holy Land. Taken captive in war and carried away, they've apparently disappeared. The mystery of the lost tribes is a challenge to historians and Bible students alike. Most people assume that the children of Israel are the Jews. Now, it is obvious that Jews are Israelites, but what is not recognised is that not all Israelites are Jews. For instance, all Victorians are Australians, but not all Australians are Victorians. And to say that Victorian people constitute the whole of the Commonwealth of Australia would be ludicrous. Most of the people we know as Jews are descendants of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, but they are only two of the 12 tribes. So the question is, where are the other 10 tribes today? Have they disappeared into oblivion, or can they in fact still be found somewhere among the nations? Now, God in his wisdom has placed marks upon Israel which would truly identify her. The signs are there for all to see, so we should be able to find the rest of Israel. Here are a few of the marks. To become a nation and a company of nations. To be symbolised by a lion and unicorn. To be dispersed and reconstituted as a kingdom. To have a descendant of King David on that throne. To be a great nation. To be named great. To be as innumerable as the sands of the sea. To reign over many nations. To be a blessing to other nations. To dwell alone. To dwell in isles to the northwest of Palestine. To be a seafaring nation. To lose their first colony and expand to become an empire. To be invincible in the last days. To possess the gates of his enemies, and to be known by another name. When John the Baptist's followers asked Jesus, "Are you the Christ?" he told them, "Tell John what things you have seen and heard." He was reminding them of the miracles that the prophet said would follow the Messiah. So Jesus too was to be identified by scriptural marks. In this series, we'll present some of these marks which are clearly described in the Bible. You be the judge. The very symbols found on the British national crest are identical to ancient Israel. Both nations use the lion and unicorn in their heraldry. "Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion and lift up himself as a young lion. God brought them out of Egypt. He has, as it were, the strength of a unicorn." Now, the symbols and motifs that many countries use on their emblems are their own native fauna and flora, so we can find a link to their history. For instance, the cedar tree on the Lebanese flag, and the maple leaf on the Canadian flag, and the fauna and flora on the Australian design. The lion is not native to the British Isles, but can be found on many public buildings throughout the Commonwealth. But why is it included in its heraldry? The lion has come to be recognised as the symbol of British colonialism throughout the world. The other supporter on the crest is the unicorn. Being mythical, it is of course native to no country. Nevertheless, it plays a definite part in identifying modern Israel. The unicorn was most probably the heifer of the wild ox, or ox antelope, having two horns. The one-horn myth possibly originated from a profile view. The leading tribe in Israel was Ephraim, who was described in the Bible as a bull. Saxons, in their migrations from the north, used a bull's head as an emblem. Their headdress was adorned with the two horns of a bull. Most people would recognise the name John Bull, a nickname for England, a memory of an ancient use. The crowned lion at the top of the crest identifies with Jesus Christ, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who is to return at the appointed time to claim this throne as his own. David, also of the line of Judah, was told that his throne would endure forever and that he would never lack a descendant to sit upon it. The shield is divided into quadrants. Note the 6 small lions and the red rampant lion. The 6 lions represent the company or Commonwealth of Nations which Israel was destined to become. Because of sin and rebellion, the house of Israel was dispersed among the nations. They forgot their identity, and the prophet Isaiah acknowledges this when he asks, "Who is blind but my servant, or as deaf as my messenger that I sent?" Israel's dispersion saw the beginning of a great colonial expansion. This World War II cartoon identifies not only the British lion but also the young lions. The glory of a lion is his mane. The names of Commonwealth countries as depicted by an artist, Canada, India, Australia, New Zealand and the South African colonies can be seen. The red rampant lion in the top right-hand corner of the shield bears the arms of Scotland, and is another mark of Israel's identity. Judah is given the scepter, the authority to rule God's people. The kings of Israel descend from him. In this day and age, when many kingdoms have ceased to exist, these promises are a great comfort to God's people. In the Bible is a story about the red rampant lion, which is both intriguing and exciting. Now, Judah had twin sons by Tamar, but before they were born, one of them, Zara, put forth a hand, to which a midwife attached a scarlet thread. And Zara then withdrew his hand, and his brother Pharez was born. This thread marks the twin who almost inherited the throne. The red hand in the shield of Ulster identifies with the moving of the throne to the promised isles of the sea. The blood of his birth is remembered by his descendants, the Celts, who have taken to themselves the red rampant lion as a symbol of their royalty. The crest of Ulster still shows the red hand, and until early this century the red thread was also a part of its heraldry. The bottom left quadrant of the shield displays a harp, the harp of Ireland. David was still a shepherd boy when he showed his expertise with the harp. Inevitably then, the harp became his emblem, and as such was inherited by the reigning branch of his descendants. It also appears on many shields and arms of Irish royal families. Little wonder then that a harp should appear on the national crest, further evidence of Britain's link with Israel. At the bottom of the crest we see the words, Dieu est mon droit, God and my right. What right? The birthright. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. And Isaac blessed Jacob and said, Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be a lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be he that blesses thee. And now, in the 20th century, this blessing continues with the House of Windsor. God has said that if the sun and the moon and the stars in the heavens ceased to exist, and that day no longer followed night, only then would his promises to David be annulled. Well, day still follows night, so we must assume that the throne of David still exists today by divine right. As we continue to examine the national crest, we find that it contains a motto. Around the shield are the words, Honi soit qui mal y pense. Shame to him who thinks ill of it. The most noble order of the Garter was introduced by King Edward III around the middle of the 14th century. According to legend, the king returned a garter to a lady, saying to bystanders, Honi soit qui mal y pense, the interpretation being shame to him who thinks ill of it. Now, we have seen that in every detail, the British national crest is based upon the scriptures, which are of Israelitish origin. The possibility that the motto was added through flippancy is beyond all reason. In fact, the motto is a reminder that it is evil to not believe God's promises. The children of Israel have a history of making excuses and not believing God. This heraldry identifies God's people, and the motto is a warning. Shame on him who thinks ill of it. Even the name British is derived from two Hebrew words. Brith, which means covenant, and Ish, people. The covenant people. The only people with whom God ever made a covenant was Israel. Now, God likened Israel to a woman whom he married at Mount Sinai, and as such, she was the woman of the covenant, Britannia. Again, God speaks with Abraham, explaining the promises further. And I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. The British is not a country, it is a race of people. And they are not just the people who live in the British Isles. All the descendants of Jacob Israel are the British. Regardless of where they were born or live today, they are all part of God's national heritage. Earlier this century, the time of the Gentiles was fulfilled, culminating in the return of Jerusalem into British hands during the Great War of 1917. How blind are my people, cries God. Well, the Jews know who they are, they've always known. But Israel are lost among the nations. Oblivious of their true identity and completely gentilized, they have paid dearly for their misdeeds of the past. For these are the days of Jacob's trouble. The might of her empire has faded. It's time to turn back to the promises of God. We have seen only a fraction of the scriptural evidence that is available. Examination of the scriptures will prove over and over again the substance of this claim.